IVM.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. I am Kingshuk, a researcher at the Takshashila Institution. With me is my colleague, Dr. Nithiyanandam Yogeswaran, a professor at the Takshashila Institution. Today we'll discuss about urban flood. The recent deluge in Chennai, triggered by Cyclone Michaung, has highlighted the vulnerability of Indian cities to climate-induced disaster. A report by Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 2002 had dire warning for India. The most dangerous risk factor, it said, is climate change and rising sea level that threaten to submerge coastal cities in the country by the end of the century. And it seems that is coming true. So, hello Nitya, it's great to have you in All Things Policy.
Hello, Kingshuk. It is good to be on your show again on this important topic.
Yeah, it's true. As I've started with a report of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of 2001, and it seems it is coming true. If you see the recent spate of flood in India in last few years, and the recently what happened in Chennai. So, with this, let's get into this topic of urban flood and with Chennai in particular. So I'll ask you the first question. Can you, for our listener, describe the recent cyclone in Chennai and what was the extent of the damage?
Yeah, the recent cyclone in Chennai has made damages at various level. In fact, it has just reminded the people and the government something similar to what happened in 2015. And in 2015, the city has undergone a major cyclonic impact, and it has taken lives of many. But today, the same thing, a similar kind of thing, because I believe the total cumulative rainfall happened in 2015 was around closer to 1,000 millimeter, and now it is 900 millimeter in a very short span. So when it comes to impact, the state government has requested around 5,000 crores as a compensation for the losses that has occurred during this the cyclone. Whereas the different sources says there's a huge losses in the infrastructure people had. There's huge losses in the livelihood, especially when the airports was shut for a couple of days. Then there's no transportation happen, no electricity. People could not go to their offices, and other institutions could not run regularly. The loss is very big. However, it is unclear how much it is the greater impact. But the state government, as I said, is claiming somewhere around 5,000 crores for this recent impact.
And that is a huge factor. If you see, thankfully, there had been less loss of life compared to the earlier disaster, but amount of economic hardship people have to go and the damage to the infrastructure that it has caused, this cyclone. And I do remember there was a clipping going on in the news channels on social media, some in one of those roads there was one crocodile.
That's an interesting clip, because on a particular close to a particular water body in southern Chennai, you should you may aware, Kingshuk, for the larger audience, we would like to bring out the major impact on this flood this time is most on the southern district, a southern part of a district of Chennai, where you can see the part of a city which has so much of water bodies, and it had many more in the very older times, where the house of many species as well. So these are the species which just comes out, once you have plenty of water flooded and I believe it is very difficult for even them to discriminate their territories and the flooded waters.
Yeah, like continuing like just what you said, like there are some interesting statistics that I would like to share with you and our listener. Only 15% of Chennai wetlands are left. And according to a study by Chennai-based Center Earth Care Trust Biodiversity Research Organization, their finding shows that Chennai built-up area has grew from 47 square kilometer in 1980s to over 402 square kilometer in 2002, while that of wetland has declined from 186 square kilometer to 71. So with this, like number in background, like I would like to ask you, like how has the urban development and the environmental factor has contributed to the recurring flood in Chennai? Like as I have shared the statistics with you, in one way we say there's a huge increase in like in urban development, and in another say we say huge decline in the natural like environmental biodiversity factors. So like if you can.
Yeah, you're correct, because the concrete structure has raised around tenfold in this period, and then subsequently the quantum of vegetation, the reduction of water body has increased, and the quantum of vegetation has decreased, and the other feature, especially the wetland. For the larger sake, I would like to explain what is the role of a wetland in a city. The wetland actually acts something like a lungs in an urban system, where it try to there are certain wetland is an area where you can see it. You cannot say it is a complete water body kind of structure where the water is stagnant and things are there. Where here it's slightly different. It looks like you have green vegetation there, and you have a swampy land which has water over a period, which regularly filters the water, and then it recharges the groundwater. That's more important. The role is to recharge the groundwater and hold the water in a particular place instead of acting as a regular runoff, right? So when these wetlands are taken away, secondly, the drainage network includes ponds, tanks, and streams, and so on. When the streams are taken off and it is transformed into roads, bridges, buildings, and other facilities, and the tanks are taken for larger projects, and it's not necessarily a residential project. The data says it has been used for other projects, other government projects, like big infrastructure projects in the past. So when those were utilized for all these purposes, and the entire drainage network has been broken, and once you hamper it, then you are creating or forcing a water body or the natural flow of water to flow in a different possible ways, which eventually impacts people. Because again, people or when they build houses, they're not aware of what exactly they are doing, where they are building it. But suppose if you are building a house on an artery of a water source, then it affects his own flow and leads to something like heart attack. What we get is something where we are seeing in urban structure the huge flood, right? A sudden blockage on one area could flood that area and also create flood on the neighborhood as well. So this is what a common cause. So when you impact the components of urban drainage system, the overall drainage system, then there is a potential impact on its overall ecosystem. And each of these players has their own role, right? Let's say the tank has a particular role in a city where it recharges water, it collects it, it recharges ground aquifers, and so on. Whereas the river allows the water, especially storm water, to carry from one point to another based on natural gradient, or you can say gravity. Whereas the other features like wetland, which also plays a different role, and of course wells plays a different role in different parts of the city. Now, when you create something like artificial drainage system in lieu of the natural flow or the conventional systems, it has to be designed in a comprehensive manner, and there should be in space. There should be the adequate space. There should be adequate technological aspect associated to it by considering some nature-based solutions and all. So when you have a comprehensive thought process in combating this, it could be a potential output or an effort for mitigating the flood. But whereas in the reality, it is more of relied on technical advancements, and that too without looking at the system comprehensively and looking at city as one. So it is a problem generally looked at different locations and different in isolation. That's a problem.
That is also true. Like, as you have pointed out, due to the urbanization, the way city is being developed, but it is not able to cope up, be the drainage system or the existing, as you pointed out, the tanks or lakes that are being filled. So, like, I would like to understand from you, like, firstly, why Chennai is experiencing this frequent flooding? Like, is due to some Chennai's topography? And the second part, there a historical pattern, or this is a new development?
One important factor that you have stated is that it's topography, right? So the city is on the coast, and it is one among the coastal cities in India, which is listed as a vulnerable city for the flood. And when you have a city which is very close to the shoreline and where you have a less difference in elevation from your coast and the many part of your city, naturally it attracts the possibility of flooding. And especially when your city is designed with sewer networks which cannot hold the rainwater or the storm water to the extent which is being poured these days compared to what it was designed earlier, then you will have the water which likely to stagnate over a place. And when it comes to Chennai, yes, as I said, the biggest flood has witnessed in recent times in 2015, and then we have seen something similar. There's a pattern that it shows the different areas in Chennai are getting flooded, and the obvious reason or the simple reason where everybody can easily figure out is the construction. The increase in construction, increase in impervious surfaces. Increase in construction is one. The second is more of impervious surfaces. Impervious surfaces in general are the material which does not allow the water to flow, get in. It does not allow something like, there's no sponge kind of mechanism to attract the water towards its soil, where it is just allow them to flow as a natural runoff. Now, when you have all those things, the increase in the rate of urbanization, especially impervious surfaces, along with other factors, are showing an increasing in trend. However, certain efforts are taken after 2015 to mitigate it. As I told, the solution is looked at more of technological intervention rather than the comprehensive, solution to this problem. The clogs in drains remain same. The attitude of people remain the same. The construction and activities on the the water bodies are same. When I say construction on water body, it's not necessarily an existing water body which is is being encroached. It can also be like when you have a water source which is drained and which will eventually get water once in a while when you get and heavy downpour. But when you get into the location, when you see those spaces, you never think that it could be a water body. You always see it as an empty land or a barren land, and then it changes. So strict following of guidelines and things are enforced, or at least it is envisaged the importance of it in recent times. However, there is no more efforts are required. Once the construction is built, the only way is to find an alternative for it by using mechanical pumps to pump the water from a particular place instead of finding its natural course. So there should be some innovative thought process need to be there, and there should be a specific solution to be given. Like we have electricity, poles and electricity, lines which are going separately. We have water pipe which runs separately. So perhaps we need more solutions like this to sort it out.
Stay tuned to All Things Policy. We'll be right back after a short commercial break.
As we have pointed out, Chennai struggles are part of a broader narrative of climate vulnerability across Indian city. Be it Kolkata, Mumbai, for example, that faces significant risk from sea level rise, tropical cyclone, and riverine flooding. And these are densely populated metros that are already facing the climate change. So, how do these communities inform our understanding of urban flood? And like what you see, like do you observe some common trend, like because there had been flood across all three cities in different point of time if you take a span of within last 10 to 15 years. So what are the commonalities observed in the recent flooding across the different cities in India?
Yeah, I could summarize some of the commonalities here. The first one is the rate of urbanization and infrastructure development. That as I specified earlier, that is along the catchments and the depletion of natural resources, altering natural drainage patterns are one predominant aspect, which is common in many of the cities. The second is inadequate drainage system also. So the drainage system is always envisaged, and it is always looked more for sewerage as a sewerage infrastructure, whereas the stormwater infrastructure should also be given emphasis on the cities. And second is climate change and weather pattern. Look at the period that we are getting rainfall these days, which is unprecedented and which is slightly different from the climate observation of that place, which is a cumulative observation of 30 plus years on a particular area, right? So that's how we call it as a climate data or a climate pattern. But what we are getting, what you are observing here today is complete different things. The districts which are not in flood-prone areas are getting flooded, and which get more and more rainfall. Because of that, it is getting flooded, and cities that we are looking at are vulnerable to floods and so on. Few other things include poor urban planning and management, but this is very crucial because when we look into the urban planning and management, most of the cities are not ready for combating this. Though the national level efforts are taken, however, it will require a comprehensive understanding of the topography and the requirement of each cities, because one size does not fit to all these cities. So we need to have an indigenous solution which works better for their topography, soil, and a kind of activity being engaged, whether it is a spot for tourism, whether it is a city which has a lot of manufacturing industries, something like that. So the last one is economic and human impact, because the kind of the activity that people engage, and that is common in all this. When I say the economic and human impact, the kind of the impact which is reaped out of this floods are same in across all the cities. These are the commonalities. So the behavioral change is another aspect which almost similar, while maintaining the water bodies or giving importance to these water bodies and drainages that also need to be improved in order to look into the better future.
Yeah, I think as you have pointed out, in one of the commonalities is firstly is the urban growth. So like as we are in Bangalore, I would like to share some statistics about Bangalore. Between 1973 and 2007, the urban area of Greater Bangalore area grew by 1028%. And in same time, parallelly, there have been reports that claim there had been 88% decline in total vegetation cover and 79% decline in water bodies. Those may be lakes, wetland. So it seems that, there's a huge impact of how urbanization and this, how the nature, there has to be some symbiosis between them. So in this context, like I would like to ask you, how you see, like what role does physical infrastructure play in preventing the flood? Like we can't stop the urbanization, but that we also equally have to bear in mind that with this reckless urbanization, like if the environment is totally destroyed, we can't live because drought is increased, flooding increased. Like so, what can be like as I've asked you, the can physical infrastructure play a role in preventing flood?
Yeah, you're right. The physical infrastructure plays a crucial role in managing the flood. I would say that is a component of urban flood. Let's look at like this. As you rightly said, we cannot avoid urbanization when the entire world is moving towards 50% of urbanized areas. So obviously, this rate is quite it's not surprising, and it is going to increase and increase in Indian cities, especially even in Bangalore as well, due to the opportunities and due to the different advantages one can leverage in urban setup in Bangalore. Now, when we look into it, for say the public, the physical infrastructure, those are required. It's not only, as I said, it's not only about protecting the water body. It's not only about protecting the natural features. Let's say there's a pond, and if you are, everybody is aware the pond needs to be protected, the lake needs to be protected. Beautification of that happens once in a while, and then people enjoys and people believe everything is sorted out. What I see is that there's still a gap. The water which is being carried out to this pond or lake through a particular small nalla or the drain needs to be looked at, and there need to be a separate sewerage and the channel for sewerage and separate channel for stormwater drains as well. Because as long as you see this problem together, people dumps garbages in these channels, and which eventually clogs during the other period when it is going beyond its capacity. When it is running with half of its capacity with these clogs, it still appears to be okay, but people are not bothered about it. But when it is full, when it is overflowing from its capacity, then it becomes a concern of everyone because it will comes to your backyard. Now, one should aware of the water bodies, connected arteries, and all the components of the drainage system to look into it. Now, looking at the infrastructure requirements, perhaps instead of pumping the waters which are clogged or stagnated in a particular area, instead, yes, pumps are required. However, there should be a dedicated drainage system for stormwater in the cities. So at least it is connected from different places. Wherever there is a artificial lift required, lifted through heavy pumps, and wherever the natural gradient can be leverage it, and then take it out towards a different part of the city. Because when you consider the sewerage and the natural stormwater drain together, these days the sewage drains are connected to sewage treatment plants, and again you're not serving a purpose during the floods, because the sewage treatment plants are again getting more and more of water. When these waters are pumped in a stagnant place and then dropped into the sewage drains, eventually increase the load by multiple folds, and eventually they are not running it, and they're just allowing the water to flow from one end to another end. So this is forced on the system, whereas there need to be a separate understanding and mechanism for considering each as a separate problem. And whenever the city gets this, I think this situation can be prevented.
Yeah, that's true. As you pointed out, like we cannot done away with urbanization. That is a fact, and we pointed out in globally, like around 50% of the population is coming to urban. But the question on how to manage it, and you have rightly pointed out, like how the existing sewerage system can be improved and worked upon. And another thing would be like planting more trees. As in urban area, we have seen, the soils are being replaced by a concrete surface, an asphalt road. And the tragedy is this can't absorb the water. So that is one thing. So like to how to, like there is a paradox. And moving forward, like can you share some of the best practice like worldwide in managing the urban floods?
So there are two things, two component I can see here. The first component is yes, there's a connection between trees, there's a connection between water bodies, and so on. But though there are rules, a couple of times, what I observed is when a city does not has a capacity to accommodate more and more trees, however, it is mandated to have a certain percent of green. The new ways are innovated, the new ways and means to get green cover associated to the cities are innovated. Indeed, the annexure towns are taken along with the cities so that the overall green cover can also be shown as an increase over a period of time. Say, for example, if you consider the Bangalore as a greater Bangalore, perhaps the transformation has accompanied a lot and lot of agricultural villages nearby, and one can say there is a rise in percentage of vegetation as well. However, it is what I have quoted is not for the Bangalore, but what I say is just an example of how the cities are actually looking for alternatives instead of meeting out the purpose for which the rules and policies were laid out. So now this is one component. When we look at the best practice, there are certain good best practices. I think the city of Mumbai, again, within the country, after the flood, they've taken some efforts to mitigate it, and it appears to be working fine over these years. However, when we look at the best practice outside the country, I could remember something like during one of our research visit to Vienna, where I was surprised when bunch of people are taken to the flood management system which is designed there. While looking at its importance, Vienna, by the way, is one of the most livable city in the world. When you look at it, the flood, especially from the Danube River, is predominant in the history. And how they sorted out is quite interesting. They prepared for all the worst case scenarios. When the systems are made, the infrastructure is made. Whenever the water is overflowing beyond its permissible limits, then it is diverted to different places. So when this diverts, it diverts the excess water. It diverts the clogged. What do you call the garbages and other things which are taken along with the water during flood. So when you able to screen this and keep your water levels appropriate on your streams, then you can actually avoid it. And all this are only possible when you have when to turn on, when to turn off, is only possible when you have an advanced monitoring system which are reliable and a good understanding of topography of your city, something from the geospatial tools, especially based on the GIS data sets that you have on the nook and corner of your city where you can able to mitigate it. So you know which part of the city will get flooded because of this, and the maps which helps you to make appropriate decisions. And from the real-time data, you can corroborate and see whether the assumption and the modeling works similar to reality or not. If it is not working, then you can look at the causative factors associated to it for better understanding or better preparedness in future. So, like Vienna, many other cities in Europe and things are managed. So we need to look into the comprehensive technologies to address this. Something like a better preparedness, better monitoring system, and better cooperation and behavior from people as well.
Thank you, Nitya. You know what you said, like that makes lot of sense because we cannot do away with the flood or drought, as number of scientific research has proved that due to the climate change, the sea level will rise, temperature is increasing. So this is one way. Another way, as the population and the due to the economic opportunity, population is moving toward the cities. So rather than seeing it as a challenge or it's more like opportunity. Like with emerging new technologies, as you have said, like something like GIS mapping, and also better like stakeholder management, be it the scientific institution, think tanks, the government, like through the different ministry or urban bodies, there can be a better coordination how it can be effectively implemented. And you have pointed out the example of Vienna, and and like say in Indian context, Mumbai. So something that can be implemented, say for Chennai or Bangalore, to make this place a bit more livable. And it had been such a nice discussion. And to that, like, would you like to add something as a last point?
Yeah, I would say, there are few efforts which are taken for Chennai, over a decade. I would say, way back in 2009 and 9/11. During that period, the entire topography of the Chennai was looked at through the lidar, the light detection and ranging through planes. It was an effort to meticulously map the surface topography and further, understanding what is a potential zones which are vulnerable or the spatial vulnerabilities of those places. However, it is an institution effort, coordinated with one institution and one government agency has sanctioned. It has solved some purpose, it appears to be, but the overall data remains with a particular agency or a particular institution. Now, when you have such kind of data sets which is made openly available for public players to play in, allow the researchers to explore more, allow the startups to explore more, there could be more comprehensive solutions when you look at it after 10 years. So there is an ideal way you look at the data even after 10 years and see what you can best develop with the current technology. That is one. However, even after 2015, there are a lot of efforts are taken in order to real-time monitor the water flow and water levels in different levels. By the way, for the audience, I would like to bring out Chennai has many of them who has been to Chennai may believe Chennai has one river which is flowing along, and it appears to be in the same color, that is called River Kuva, which everybody knows it is smelly, it is dark in color, mostly carries sewage water, right? But the Chennai has four rivers, that is Aranyar, Kosatalayar, Adayar, and Kuvam, where the efforts are taken to look at the flow of water in the before it enters into city, and then the flow along the cities and so on, in order to see the flood prone areas and the potential vulnerabilities associated with that. When you understand it from certain aspect, there are still gaps because we are looking at it as a physical infrastructure, but there are many aspects associated with it, and that puzzles still need to be resolved. Once we resolve it, perhaps we can able to minimize the impact a lot. But as of now, the efforts are taken by few people, few institutions, at few aspects. So we need to look at it comprehensively in order to address this problem.
Thank you so much, Nitya, for your insight. And with this, we'll end today's podcast. Thank you.
If you liked our show, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can tune into them on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow IVM on social media. The handle is @IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hey, if you'd like to dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs, check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.